Hi, I'm Truly.
And I'm Greg.
And this is our off-grid High Sierra homestead. We're here today to show you a little bit about some of the projects Greg and I have been working on here on this property. And Greg's going to give you guys a little tour of what we've been up to.
Yeah, so this is our High Sierra homestead, and it's a 2.5 acre property at about 5,000 feet elevation. It's kind of a narrow rectangle. As we do the tour, we'll be moving eastward through the property. It's a narrow rectangle in the north and south direction. It's only 156 feet long, and in the east and west, 667 feet long. So you'll see how we have everything laid out here, kind of progresses more in the east and west direction because we're pretty constrained in the north and south. This is the existing roadway that we use to access our property. This was the only improvement that was on the property when we purchased it in December of 2018. It goes through an access easement along the west side of our property to provide access to our property and to our neighbor's property to our south. This area on the west side of the parcel is mostly a temporary log decking and firewood processing area for us. Other than that, it's just used for parking, overflow parking if needed, if we have a big party or something like that. And if we look over here on the north side of the driveway, we have our water storage tank behind. It's an emergency water supply and irrigation water supply. This is the highest point of our property, so it was a logical location for us to put our storage tank. It allows us to have gravity irrigation throughout the entire property. These solar panels were put in as one of our very first improvements on the property to power our solar well pump, which is a DC pump that sits down in our well, which you can see the well head over by our utility shed. That well is a 225 foot deep well, and the pump sits at about 100 foot depth. The static water level is around 50 feet. This DC pump that we purchased from a company out of Woodland called RPS Pumps has been a wonderful pump. It was very affordable and it's performed very well, so we're happy with it. We have the start of our fence that we're in the process of constructing. That's what these posts are for. This corner of the property is going to get fenced in so that we have a safe place for our animals to roam, so that they're not just out roaming freely, and they're also not having to be cooped up all the time. So we'll continue down the driveway and give you guys a look at some of the projects we've completed so far and an overview of some of the projects we have in mind for the future. So down here to our right, we have some of our early earthworks. This was just a little bit of work I was able to do with our little skid steer that we purchased. That and the sawmill were things that we knew would be critical to all the projects that we had envisioned for ourselves here. So these earthworks were intended to slow down and hopefully reverse the erosion that's taking place on this site. This site, like so many others, has been impacted by prior human activities that have exacerbated the naturally occurring erosion, and the loss of topsoil is something that we wanted to try to reverse or slow down as quickly as possible when we got to the property. So that's why we did some of these earthworks to retain the water that falls on the property and the runoff that comes from upslope of the property, slowing it down as it moves through the property, hopefully capturing as much as we can instead of just letting it flow through, causing erosion and contributing to downstream flooding issues during periods of intense storms. It's functioned fairly well so far. It's helped passively water a lot of the plantings that we did on the property. And as we continue down the driveway, we approach our cabin and our barn. These are the two biggest projects that we've completed on the property so far. This barn was our most recent project. It's almost done. We still have to build the doors for the front and the back, which are going to be sliding traditional barn doors. We have our basketball hoop up there, which was gift from Santa Claus this winter, and we've been enjoying using it so far. We have chickens on the right inside of one of the stalls, and they have a runner. And then we have 2 other stalls that are currently empty that we hope to someday use for other animal husbandry. We're thinking maybe goats or sheep, possibly someday horses. We'll see what we end up putting inside of those stalls. It'll be exciting to find out. On the left-hand side, we have a shop room, which is also our outdoor office space. And in the back, we have a storage loft that has been really nice for helping us get organized and kind of have a place for everything out here with our small structures. Storage space has been kind of at a premium up until this point. Finishing the barn provides us with a lot more space. It's been really nice to have. And all this wood that you see on the structure was logged locally. The majority of this building was built with Jeffrey pine, which we got from BLM land just to our north. It was really convenient to be able to utilize wood off of the BLM land because we didn't have to worry about loading it and hauling it and unloading it. We were able to just drag the trees right over from where we logged them, which was really nice, logistically speaking, for the construction process. We also used power poles, which are Douglas fir power poles that we got from the local electric cooperative. And we harvested some material off of a local fire burn. We salvaged some Doug fir timbers off of the burn scar that we utilized for some of the more critical structural elements. And over here we have our cabin. This is our current dwelling where Truly and I reside. We've been in here for about 2 years now. We love our little cabin. It's very quaint and nostalgic. Definitely has a rustic feel. And it was constructed primarily with lodgepole pine, which is the exterior walls. They're called D-logs because they're milled into a D shape that we used to build the main frame of the structure. And then we logged Douglas fir and cedar as well, that we used the Doug fir for all of our structural elements, all the dimensional lumber like the beams and the rafters, and the cedar we used for all of our trim work and our gable siding. It's a very rot resistant material, so we used it for a lot of our exterior construction components. And then we also utilized pine, since that's what we have most abundant around here. We used pine for our ceiling boards and our floorboards and a lot of our inside stuff like our stairwell and our cabinetry, things like that. We have an attached carport here. It's a nice place to park and store our firewood in the winter. Keeps things dry. This is our first building. It's our storage shed. And thankfully we were able to put a storage loft in the barn, and that allowed us to spread things out a little bit. Now you can actually find things when you're looking for them in the storage shed. Over here we have our septic system. You can see our 2 lids of our septic tank. Our leach field's out there on the slope in front of the septic tank in front of the house. And we have some of our first iterations of landscaping in front of the house. It's kind of a clean canvas still. We're really excited about our vision for the landscaping for the cabin down the line. And this shape of this area in here is sort of like an amphitheater. It made us think that it'd be a great place to gather people together and have our wedding. So 2 years ago in June, on June 11th, we did have our wedding here. Truly and I got married right down between those 2 pine trees in front of all of our loved ones and friends. And it was a perfect venue for it. And it's great to have it right here where we can always reminisce on those priceless memories. That brings us to our greenhouse. This is a Winterhaus greenhouse from the Scandinavian region of the world. It's designed for high winds and snow climates. It's perfect for this property where we do at times get fairly intense winds and deep snow. We're at about 5,000 feet here in the Sierra Nevada mountains, so it's important that all of our structures are designed and built for those extreme weather conditions. We want to build someday a dug-in, climate-controlled greenhouse, a larger size, but that project is going to be pretty involved, and we really wanted to get a greenhouse out here to extend our growing season. So this is the best option we could find as far as affordability and sustainability goes. We haven't used it a whole lot yet, but we're hoping to get some good winter crops going here soon.
We've only had it for one season.
Only one season so far. All right, so over here we have our soil processing center, so we call it. On the right, we just have some native soil that we dug out when we did the footings on the barn. So that's just there for fill dirt when we need it for little landscaping or grading. And then we have a little pile of cured compost from last year, and then a little pile of fresh compost that we've had going this season. And then a little woodshed there with some scrap materials and various gardening supplies. And that brings us over here to our raised bed. This is the first thing we built on the property, actually, because it didn't cost us any money. We were able to cut down the cedar trees and mill all the boards with the sawmill and harvest all the soil on site and amend it. We've been growing in this garden for 5 growing seasons now, so we've had a lot of bounty, and some years better than others. We get a lot of frosts at this elevation, so it makes it challenging to garden here, but we do anyways.
Currently all that's growing in here is asparagus, some garlic, some onions, a lot of mint and other herbs that are hardy over winter. And during the summer season when we're growing in this raised bed area, we do corn down the center, and we also have to keep pests out, so we put up a temporary fencing during the summer when we have a lot of crops that are needing to be protected.
Yep, so this has been a good gardening area for us. We have the chicken wire underneath to keep the ground rodents out, and then we built in little post housing in the beds so that it's easy for us to put our fence up seasonally and take it down in the winter. And we made the entrance big enough for the tractor so we could drive in there and move dirt around if we need to.
That's my favorite part, because the least favorite part of gardening is wheelbarrowing dirt into raised beds. So being able to use the bobcat for something like that is so much easier on your body.
You can see a lot of clover coming up. It's our winter ground cover that helps build the soil quality. Cool. So we'll continue eastward down the driveway.
Yoshi's my #1 garden buddy.
So this is going to be our turnaround for our future house around this big pine tree. We want to build the house that will be our permanent home right over here to my right. It's the best views on the property, and truly had the wisdom to save it for our future house and not use it up on our guest house, even though I was tempted to put the guest house in the most beautiful spot. Thankfully, I was smart enough to listen to her, and so we saved this for our big home that we're going to build. It'll probably be 2-bedroom house, one for us and one for our kid or kids, and a loft probably for guests. That's what we're currently envisioning, and hopefully a root cellar underneath, or maybe a dry and a wet root cellar. We have our solar array down there that provides all the power to the property. It's been over 2 years now that the solar system's been supplying our property with 24/7 power, and it's been working really well. Usually we can go at least a day or two of stormy, cloudy weather before the backup generator has to turn on and recharge the batteries for us. And someday we may expand the solar array and battery bank to add more capacity. Okay, so this is our sawmill setup. It's a band sawmill. It's called the Norwood Lumbermate LM29. This was the first thing that we purchased after we bought this property, because we knew that it would save us a lot of money in the long run on building materials. This is its 3rd location. It started over where the barn is. That's where we did the milling for the cabin. And then it moved to behind the barn. That's where we did the milling for the barn. Now we have it set up here, and we did a little bit of the final milling for the barn doors. Here, that's where the sawdust and bark came from, and what you see here. And we will be leaving it here until we finish the future house, and maybe longer. We'll see. It's been a great machine. It isn't the most expensive or high-tech of the sawmills that are available out there, so it requires a fair amount of manual labor, but it's reliable and is worth its weight in gold. So that's pretty much it on the sawmill for now. At some point we'll do a detailed video on sawmill operations. We have a lot of footage from the past from our various projects that Trudy collected of me working on the mill over the last 5 years or so. And we look forward to sharing that stuff and hopefully helping anybody who wants to get into milling be able to do so with confidence. I definitely encourage anybody who's considered it to move that direction. It saves you a lot of money in the long run, and it's very gratifying work. So let's head on over here. We can show the east part of the property where we have a seasonal drainage and some really nice diversity of vegetation. And we can get a good look at the solar array from over here. Back when we were staying in the trailer over there where we just came from, this was our outdoor shower area under this big pine tree. It's got a nice view down the seasonal drainage. We have 2 seasonal drainages that pass through our property. This one down below me joins the other more significant drainage down near our southeast property corner. We love these seasonal drainages because it provides so much diversity of vegetation and so much habitat. We see a lot of wildlife activity in this area, and we really appreciate the value of the local plants that grow down in here. There's a lot of willow and dogwood and alder and other deciduous species that don't grow anywhere else on the property. We found gooseberry and rose thorn, identified a lot of useful native plants down there. You can see the solar array here from this angle is 12 panels. They're 420 watt panels, and we'll be doing a video on the solar system at some point, showing all the different products that we used and providing all the specifications on the design and giving an overview of the construction and permitting process and so on. Well, that's probably about it for now. Maybe we'll head back to the cabin to wrap things up. So here we are in front of the cabin. We got our side deck here and our covered front porch, classic rocking chair. And down to our right, we have south-facing aspect, excellent for growing food or whatever it is that you might want to grow. We decided to put these terraces in here to give us more growing space for root crops. So far, we've been semi-successful growing root crops over here. The animals tend to make things difficult on us, but we'll keep trying.
But still also just, it's a really good use of space, and it helps with erosion control.
Yes, it does. Very good point, Trudy.
Thank you everybody for joining us. If you would like to learn more about what we're doing here on the homestead, just like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Ugh.
Thank you. Thank you.